They are the bully right now in this part of the world. And you know, when you're the bully, when you're the hegemon, you don't want another bully. So they have made it very clear. They said, make no mistake, the U.S. will fly, sail, and operate wherever international law allows, as we do all around the world. And they're bullies. It's a good thing. We are friendly to that bully because we have a mutual defense treaty with them. There's the United States Navy, and very surprisingly, this is an old story. But all of a sudden, they came out with a repeat of the story, announcing that they're going to deploy a new $7 billion warship. Can you imagine that just one warship is worth $7 billion? The latest, this is high-tech, the Zumwalt DDG guided missile destroyer 1000 with an awesome capability to defend itself and to attack other forces. It can be a one-man wrecking team. It can destroy one city. It has stealth capability. It can creep in according to their boast. It can go inside Manila Bay, for example, without us detecting that it's inside using our ordinary radar. It cannot be seen by anti-missile, by fire control radar. Of course, that's a pivot to Asia. And they have deployed so many forces all over the Pacific, in Japan, in Korea, in Australia, in Singapore, and they're talking with Thailand, of course, our proposed EDCA and Mutual Defense Treaty. Japan is not a small power. Japan is one of the biggest powers in the world. It is not as big a country as China, but if you ask me, its military power is even superior to that of China in quality. They have these two aircraft carriers for helicopters, but convertible for fixed wing planes. They have very good submarines, a lot of good missile destroyers, the Aegis class that can counter the Pengdong missile, the Dongfeng missile that I mentioned earlier. And a very big Air Force, 213 F-15 made by Mitsubishi. 82 Mitsubishi F-2 is a very good fighter. And they ordered 42 F-35 and an additional 28. You know, the moment they deploy this, and these are for delivery next year, 2016, this is going to be a game changer in the East China Sea area. These are the F-35, and China has nothing right now that can match the F-35 the moment that Japan will be able to deploy them. Japan says South China security impacts national interest. They've already made a declaration, and because of that, they changed their defense policy in two ways. To allow Japan to exercise the right of collective self-defense, or the right to come to the aid of a friendly nation under attack. What is that? The Philippines can be a friendly nation under attack that gives them the right to exercise a collective self-defense. And the second bill is to create a permanent law allowing the government to dispatch the SDF overseas to provide logistic support to a foreign force engaged in an armed combat. In other words, even if they are not the ones threatened, but a friendly foreign force is the one threatened, they can help. Their self-defense force can help. India is also there. It's a big power. India to monitor shipping in the South China Sea. Why are they concerned about the South China Sea? Because they have a joint development project with Vietnam for oil. Oil is very important to India. And according to them, India will not hesitate to use naval power to protect economic interests in the South China Sea. And what kind of military power do they have? They have two aircraft carriers. They have submarines. They have stealth frigates. They construct their own frigates. They have a lot of planes. Australia is there also. Australia issued a warning. Australia sent strong warning to China over controversial land reclamation program. And they have this potent force. Vietnam is there also, the closest neighbor of China. Vietnam has a small force. They have a lot of planes, but they recently ordered 6-kilo class submarines from Russia. And I understand 2 or 3 of them have been delivered already. And the moment these 6 submarines are fully operational, this would wreak havoc on the PLA Navy. And of course, the Philippines must help in strengthening this emerging alliance. One of that is by offering, my proposal is for the Philippines to offer the Pag-asa Island for use by friendly forces, like for example, the United States, Japan. I was with former President Fidel Ramos last night, and his idea is even more forceful than my idea. He wants F-35 U.S. fighter planes to be stationed in the Pag-asa area, and that makes military sense because if China has these forces in the Firing Cross area and also in the Paracels, you put the Pag-asa right in between, it cuts off these forces here. It will help neutralize this area. Plus, it can be easily supported by Palawan, especially Ulugan, and prevent China from going further to Scarborough Shoal and militarizing it the way they're militarizing the Firing Cross Reef area. So now what's happening is China versus the world. And very surprisingly, just early this month, no less than the ASEAN made an announcement. Before, this was a no-no. ASEAN was always a little reluctant to make a strong statement against China. But because of the reclamation projects, I think they now saw that China has overplayed their cards. So the ASEAN has made a very strong statement to stand up to Beijing over the South China Sea. ASEAN finally makes a united stand on China because of the bold reclamations. Britain entered the picture also, warning about freedom of navigation in the South China Sea. Of course, the European Council, the EU already issued a warning, and G7 issued a warning because these reclamations are obviously threatening not only our area but the entire world, because they know that the balance of power is going to be shifted very dramatically if all these reclamation areas being built by China becomes militarily operational. And thus the economic deterrence. Ito yung panawagan namin, no? And we've been doing this in tandem with the U.S. Pinoy's for Good Governance based in the United States. Boycott. A lot of people say, mahirap mag-boycott kasi bibili natin, mahal masyado yung mga iba. They have cheap goods. But in my opinion, we don't have to boycott everything. We don't have to boycott 100%. All businessmen here are aware that if your store, for example, is boycotted 20-30%, that might be enough to kill your business. It doesn't have to be 100% the boycott. So my recommendation is that we target their garments. And this is a lot easier because there are so many substitutes. There are many good substitutes from the Philippines, from India, Vietnam, Sri Lanka, of course the Philippines, and other friendly countries. Remember, every time we buy garments made in China, kaya ako ngayon, bibili ako ng garment, titignan ko tatak sa magawa ito. Pag sinabing made in China, sorry, hanap ako ng Vietnam, hanap ako ng Sri Lanka, India, because you have to be very conscious of the fact that for every dollar that we are spending on made in China goods, they might be returning this 10 cents worth of missiles, aircraft carrier, frigates, in order to continue bullying us. So we have this boycott project. That's a picture of the mga PhilAms in the United States, led by no less than Aloyda Nicolas Lewis, a Filipino who became a multi-billionaire in the United States because of good business. And I'd like to close this by saying that there's a good book now, it's a bestseller, The 100-Year Marathon. I recommend that you read this. Authored by Michael Pillsbury. Michael Pillsbury used to be supportive of China. he was one of those advising the government of Nixon, even Clinton, to help in promoting the economy of China, in the belief that a developed China, a progressive China, will become more democratic and will become more friendly, just like Germany and Japan. But later on, he found out that the opposite was happening, that the stronger they have become economically, the more aggressive they have become also with respect to their neighbors. And that is exactly what's happening now. They're aggressive against India, against Vietnam, and of late against the Philippines. And in this book, Pillsbury said that as early as 1996, they found out that the Chinese have been trying to influence the local situation in the United States. Major Chinese embassies formed friendship committees to track individuals, key politicians, business leaders, media figures in this national capital and situating them from friendly to hostile. In other words, titingnan nila, si Mr. Wright, friendly. Si Mr. Jones, hostile. Kinaklasify nila yung mga tao, no? And then, of course, the Chinese would refer to those considered sympathetic to China as China's dear friends. They did that in the United States. Imagine, 1996, they were not yet economically powerful, they were already doing it. What more today, when they have become the #2 economic power of the world? So, in the Philippines, we should look out for China's dear friends, because I'm very worried that they might try to influence our political and economic policies in the Philippines. My final note is that on August 31, Marcha will be leading a global day of prayer for peace and victory in the West Philippine Sea. We are now on the eve of a major decision to be made by the Arbitral Tribunal. The first crossroad of the Arbitral Tribunal is to decide whether they have jurisdiction. Alam ni Ombudsman Calong ito. They have to establish whether they have jurisdiction. If we lose on that one, if they say no jurisdiction, then that's it. But if they say they have jurisdiction, then they will go on to the merits of the case. And what would be the merits of the case? The question that we submitted to the Arbitral Tribunal is to decide on the water, the sea, to challenge their 9-dash line, which claims about 95% of the South China Sea. If we succeed in getting the Arbitral Tribunal to decide that China does not have the right to claim the South China Sea, they'll be pushed back all the way to Hainan, and we will recover fully our exclusive economic zone, and the middle part of the South China Sea will become part of the commons owned by everybody. So this is going to be very crucial. Kailangan magdasal tayo kasi mabigat ang kalaban. So we'd like to invite you, if you're free, this is a day of patriotism. This happens to be National Heroes Day. It is a holiday, pero konting sakripisyo yung mga nauna sa atin, sa Quezon City, maraming patriots dito. Yung mga katipunan, dumadaan dito noon. Sa Balara, sa Balintawak, sa Toro Hill, sa Cruz Naligas, doon sa ibang Bungad Lawin, puro mga Quezon City, yung mga lugar na yan. So tama, maraming mga patriots sa Quezon City. Join us in this day of patriotism. Mag-prayer rally tayo rito kasi mga Chinese di marunong magdasal yun eh. Tayo marunong tayo. Sabi nga na iba, worship, not worship. Yun ang panlaban natin sa China. Now, my title is, you asked me to talk about conflict and quest for peace in the West Philippine Sea. You know, if you look at the history of mankind, if you look at the history of conflict, you have peace if there's balance of power. There will be no peace if there's a balance of power. Because if the other side will see that they will gain and not get hurt by attacking another country, if there's a balance of power, then there will be no peace. But we have to maintain that balance of power in order to avoid that conflict. They're pushing us, but we have to push back. And very fortunately, we have allies. We have practically the whole world supporting us in trying to push back this bullying.